Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Recording secretary, would call the roll, please.
Roll call, Darlene Wise.
Here.
Phil Bellinger.
Here.
Traci Chouinard. Here.
Before we open the public hearing, I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda to add an item for approval of agenda. It's never been on the agenda, but I think we should approve the agenda. So I would make that motion to add approval of agenda after the roll call.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Now, with regard to approval of agenda, I would make a motion in the public hearing A. It says the applicant is requesting a 2-foot rear yard setback. If you look at his application, it's a 2-foot reduction. Instead of 30 feet, it's 28 feet. So I would make a motion to amend the agenda so it reads that the applicant is requesting a 28-foot rear yard setback.
I agree, I was concerned about the same topic. So, second that motion.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. So now I call the public hearing open. This is a public hearing. The applicants are David and Karen Hood. Tax number is 44-015-129-008-00. Property address is 3177 Autumn View Lane, Metamora, Michigan, 48455. For 2 variance requests from the Metamora Township zoning ordinance number 23. The first request is from Article 13, Schedule of Regulations, Section 1300, R1 District rear yard setbacks, which are 30 feet. The applicant is requesting a 28-foot rear yard setback. The second request is from Article 15, General Provisions, Section 1500, accessory buildings. B6, overhead doors on a residential accessory building erected in the front yard shall not face the street. The applicant is requesting the overhead doors to face the street. The way we will conduct the public hearing, we'll have the applicants speak first. We go to the podium, state your case. We'll probably have some questions for you as well. When yours done, then it will open for public comments on these requests. And then after the public is done, we'll have you come back up, answer any questions that may have arisen during public comments. And then finally, Mr. Israel will make comments as well. So with that, if you would approach.
So what we're attempting to do here is we want to put up essentially a second garage. The size of it is kind of dictated by what we want to put into it, which is a large camper. It's 42 feet long, which necessitates basically a 48-foot garage when we consider how much we lose on the inside for the construction, and we actually need a little bit of space in order to be able to get it in and close the door. So the 48-foot length is kind of what we need. We also wanted to put other things in there, such as our tractor and a couple of ATVs, which are currently stored underneath one of the temporary car shelters behind our current garage. So that's a 2-car attached garage to our house. Now we're running into the problems is we have a large easement on our property. It's a water retention easement for the community. That actually forced our house, mind you, this is before we purchased it, to be built at the very back of our lot, which is only 31 feet off the lot by my measurement. By that, because of that actually, if we put the new building at 30-foot setback as required, we're going to be roughly 8 to 10 feet. The very front of the building would be roughly 8 to 10 feet in front of the furthest portion forward of our house. So our house right now is 260 67 feet from the road. And as we drew up the site map here, or site plan here, with the variances we're asking for, the frontmost portion of the accessory building, the garage, will be 261 feet from the road. So it's actually going to be about 6 feet closer than for this portion of our house forward towards the road. Now, the 2 feet that we're asking is kind of an odd thing to ask for. It's just because of the terrain of our property and the fact that we have the pond on the north side. We actually have sloping down where we're going to eventually put a driveway, hopefully, so we can get our camper in and out. We actually have upward slopes to go with that. So we'd be actually going down and then back up. If we move back a couple feet, that actually helps alleviate a problem where we actually might not have to go back up a hill at the end of our driveway extension we're going to put in later. So that's where that portion come in. The overhead doors, that would be because if we were to put the building sideways, I do not think we would actually be able to use it for what we intend for, which is put our camper in it, because I don't think there's any way that we'd be able to actually drive around the building and get the camper to back into the building on the side without going onto our neighbor's property. I did the math, and basically 48-foot building, our truck and camper is 59 feet total length, and it takes 26 feet to turn. So if we put it directly onto the variance for the easement for the community septic force main, we were probably going to be driving onto our neighbor's property in order to get it in and out if we put it sideways on the lot. So another portion of this is directly behind us is 100 foot of land that's owned by our association. So there's no structures, anything back there. It's set up for open area and a community septic for the entire community. The next property back is about 125 feet to the house beyond that. So there's very little back there, and there's a large area of just trees that are back there also. Makes it very, very difficult to even see through to see the neighbor's house behind us. The community septic, that's actually a little bit further to the south than where we're planning on putting this building. The cleanouts actually end probably about 30 feet further south than any portion of the building would be. So basically, this entire section and to the north is just empty space. So that's pretty much what we're planning and we're hoping to do.
So your septic system is a community septic system?
Yes, from the property to the south of us, all the way around our cul-de-sac, and then not directly across the street from the next house over, but they all pump up into, you can see the force main easement in the middle of our property. They pump up there. It actually goes around the back of our house, and there's a big 2,500 gallon dosing tank back there that feeds 2 septic fields, 2 leach fields, one on either side.
Is there a homeowners association?
Yes,
member?
yeah, we're an homeowners association. Yeah, and they're the ones that actually own all that land back there.
And so the new accessory building, about 6 feet of it would actually be in front of your house.
Right. The other 42 feet would be equal to the front or to the back.
And what will it look like from the outside? Will it look like your garage?
Yeah, we're actually,
It's gonna mimic our house,
Yes.
because that's what our association
It
said. It can't look like a pole barn, it has to look like.
right, it's gonna be vinyl sided to match the same color as our house. We actually already purchased the exact same lighting that's on our garage doors right now, or next to our garage doors. We have 3 lights. We bought the identical lights to put up on this. We bought them ahead of time because we were afraid they were discontinuing them, so we wanted to make sure we got them. So everything is being made, every effort is being made to match it to what the house looks like.
Have you gone to the homeowners association already?
Yes. Yeah, we've talked to them quite a few times, actually. I've sent them our plan even before we even applied or even talked to the builders, let them know what our plan was. And they were very hands-off. They only have, I think it's 15 lots total in the association. And their position is, as long as it falls within
Our rules.
Well, not the rules, but the township's rules. They're okay with it. If it's something that the township doesn't agree with, then they're not going to agree with it.
The pond to the north of you, that's just a pond.
Yes,
The pond to the south, I see you're talking about stormwater retention easement.
yes,
So that's for the water that runs off the road?
Yeah, actually, no, it's, the ditch is on the east side, there's basically low points, so they're both right in there. On the west side of the road, there's actually a 24-inch culvert that goes under the road that feeds all the water from the west side directly into that pond. So it was by design, not by accident when this community was, or this, basically the road was developed.
Your diagram shows a future driveway extension that would go over the force main easement.
Correct.
Would that be gravel, would that be pavement?
It would be, we're planning on asphalt. The force main should be at least 40 inches underground, if I'm not mistaken. And we talked to the people that do the asphalt, and they only dig down 10 inches to put base down.
When did you buy them?
We bought it in 2017.
Did you buy, there actually are two separate lots.
Right. So in 2017, we bought the house where our house is. Early 2018, that property that to the north of us came for sale. We purchased that also. With the intention of, we would probably end up doing this type of building in the future. And then we started the process of combining two properties, which we started, I think, November of 2022. It was completed November of 2023. So it took about a year.
Any questions?
Well, I was out there today, and I see no other buildings, you know, barns built in that area. And that area is a pretty nice area.
If you go past our house, I think it's 2 houses past on the left-hand side, there's actually, I believe it was a 30 by 40 building right behind the house there.
You know, when we, I've been here 20 years, so when we, the planning commission designed that for the barns to have no doors in facing the road, did it for a purpose. And the purpose was that you didn't want to look out of your neighbor's house and be blocked up by motorhomes and stuff sitting there. And so that's why we had that. Now you can put a door wall in there and slide it and back up into there with your motorhome. And when you leave it closed, we allow that in the ordinance. I do believe, unless somebody's changed it while I wasn't here, I've always been here. And so I'd kind of be against that roll-up door. Yeah, for that purpose.
Because you're afraid that would people leave it open? If you-
Well, the people leave it open, they work in there, and they get cars coming and going and all that.
Well, what we're planning is mainly for storage. Currently, we have our camper parked on the side of our garage, so if people are looking at our house, they're seeing our camper anyways. Our goal is to get it underneath the shelter because we've already had 2 storms where we've received damage on the camper. The last one, I was able to replace a door that had gotten broken by something hitting it, and that cost me personally about $240 just for the part. If I were taking that into the dealership, I would probably been over $1,000. So it's, for me, it's property protection also. But we're the type of people that we don't leave doors open like that. When we leave the garage, we make sure it's closed.
We want to put everything inside, so that like our tractor right now is in a temporary structure, which I don't think looks good. I'd like to see it in the pole barn, and then everything can be kept closed and neatly put away and away from, you know, just, I'd like to have everything nicely.
Well, you can do that with that there sliding door too. You can put doors on the outside,
Well,
or on the side, and just for small doors, and put your tractors and stuff in.
Yeah, the problem is how big it is.
well, not only that, then it ruins the aesthetic. It's not going to match the look and feel of our existing home, which is one of the tenets of our association. Any garages would need to actually match the aesthetics of your primary residence, which a sliding door would definitely not match. And quite frankly, our homeowners association would probably say no to that particular design.
If no other questions. I'm not against the setback, but I would be against that door being, you know, the big doors. It's up to you guys.
organization of your application. It's very thorough. I did stop by today too. So I could see nice neighborhood, and I understand the aesthetic of the neighborhood, that everything's well maintained. So I did notice on the way in, I think the house is probably not on Autumn View, the address, but that they had a barn at the top, which appears to be something very similar to what you're asking for, that you would drive into with the door.
Right.
So I think there's other homes nearby that have the same thing. And your property is certainly, we have to look for something that's peculiar, that's something that's different, that why this should be allowed. And your property is very unique in the fact that it has this very large storm retention pond easement, and then also that community septic force main that limits what you can do there, so.
And kind of to go back to your concern about the overhead doors, currently, I just thought about this part too. Currently, we have a lot of pine trees, a lot of evergreens on our property. I'm sure you probably saw those. Right now, there's 3 large that are kind of down the center line of the property. Along the side of our drive. In addition, there's a number that are along the front of the property against the road. Part of what we're planning to do, and I told our homeowners association with this, is once this is all completed, we're probably going to put in another 10 to 15 evergreen trees. A lot of it would be on the front side to block any view from the road, hopefully in 5 to 10 years, depending on how fast they grow. And then another set along the north side to kind of block so that people on the north side who live by the cul-de-sac, they won't actually have as much of a view of the building as.
So it's more aesthetic.
Yeah, so it's going to be hopefully a lot more concealed in the future. It'll take some time for the trees to grow up, but that was part of our plan in the beginning.
Great.
No other questions for me?
Everybody know that?
Open up to the public, and the public want to address the request?
Susan Huff, H-O-U-G-H, 5047 Blood Road. And I have to echo what Traci said, that was a really nicely put together packet. I almost question if we're really even talking about the front yard. It looks to me like this is the side of the property. I think you're being generous when you call it the front yard. And like Traci said, based on the special, unique characteristics of these lots, there's really no other place that you could put a building like that. And I think you're right, it's gonna look a lot nicer to have all those things contained in a building. Overhead door versus slider. An overhead door, I assume you're going to put something similar to what you have in your home.
Yes.
Everything to match the.
Yeah, and that will make it look very neat and tidy, much better than a slider, and your homeowners association has already agreed with those things. My only question was, there was nothing about the height of the building, but it looks like you have a multiple story home, so I assume it's not gonna be higher than your home.
Yeah, it would be a 16-foot sidewall.
Yeah,
Which
so,
is the standard height for a large camper we have.
yeah, I mean, it looks to me like they did their homework and they placed the barn in an appropriate place, and they've gone to the homeowners association, and I hope that they're successful in their attempt.
Anyone else want to speak?
Yeah, I just have a quick question.
I'd like to-
Oh, okay, sure.
Karen Pacheco, you got my spelling from yesterday. I live in the village, and I'm honestly just a curiosity question, because it's your money to spend. But like, you're gonna spend a lot of money to store a camper, when you can do that, you know, like my sister stores hers at my parents' house, because it's allowed there. Or like you stored it at another place, and I hear you on damage, but like, I'm just curious, why spend all this money to have it at home, that's all.
We have a lot of other things.
Other things
Yeah, we have a
too,
tractor,
okay.
we have ATVs, currently in our garage behind her car.
I have a golf cart.
Okay.
So everything's right now, we have a lot of stuff that's kind of jammed in, honey.
Yeah.
And this will just allow us to kind of put it in an organized manner, put it away organized, basically.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. Isbell?
Thank you, Chairman. Okay, very nice package you did here. A lot of effort was on it. The 2-foot setback in the back, that they're looking for, the 2-foot variance for the back, there's actually 100 more feet behind them. So that 2 foot, in my eyes, as a zoning administrator, you know, really minuscule because of the greater depth on it. The other thing, the property is loaded up with easement. It is a unique property, meets that threshold that you have to, you know, wiggle and waggle to get something in there. So that was a good thing there. Now, the front garage doors, in the ordinance, it says if it's, the building is in front of the house. In this case, their building is 6 feet in front of the house. However, they're 261 feet off the road. And so their front yard setback, according to our ordinance, would be somewhere around 100 feet. And they're almost 3 times that, 1.5 times that further. So they are a ways off the road. There's another thing in our ordinance where the planning commission, instead of them hearing it here, the garage doors in the front, it's supposed to go to the planning commission, to be heard at the planning commission. So the zoning administrator would deny it because they face the front, and then it would get referred to the planning commission. Then there's another document in our files where the planning commission didn't want to hear that anymore, and they left it to the zoning administrator to make that decision. And there's a date on that, offhand I don't remember what it is. So with that being said, the zoning administrator position on this, because it's so far off the road, and the 2 garage doors on the front, it's only a 34-foot wide building, you know, it's not really going to be that ugly in the depth of it. The zoning administrator maybe could make that decision. However, they were coming here for a variance, so I decided to have it heard here also. And it's a unique piece of property. The applicant said that they were going to address some landscaping trees, evergreen, that would be a buffer from all the neighbors and that. They have a hardship there. The zoning board needs to make a decision. Zoning Board of Appeals.
Thank you. Anything else you want to address the board?
No, I think that we've covered everything that I want to bring up. Thank you.
One more thing, Chairman.
Go ahead.
We appreciate you spending your money in the township, raising the taxable value and paying the tax.
Well, I announce that the public hearing is closed. And now we'll go into the regular agenda. First thing is the approval of the minutes. Board members looked at the minutes from the last meeting.
Just barely. I'd make a motion that we approve the minutes from the last meeting, which was October 20th.
I'll second that.
Since I was not at the meeting, I will abstain. But all in favor? Motion is carried. Next on the agenda is public comments, items not scheduled on the agenda.
Karen Pacheco again, still is a resident of the village. So, I don't know, did you guys get the complaint that I filed about, I felt that my comment at the last meeting, my second public comment was mischaracterized in the minutes. Did you guys receive that complaint? Anyone review that complaint?
I have not received a
I think
complaint.
I received.
No, I filed it months
From
ago.
the ZBA or from the planning commission?
ZBA, about the last ZBA meeting. I felt my comment was mischaracterized.
I was not there. so-
No, I understand that, but I was just wondering if you were given the comment to review, or my complaint to review about that comment.
I personally have not seen it.
Unless it's in these areas.
I think it was in something that, I don't recall the details, but
Yeah, no, it wasn't something I believe I handed out to you, but to me, that should have been provided to the ZBA to review before voting on the minutes. Not a huge big deal, but I think it matters when the last ZBA meeting, gosh, to me, had so many conflicts of interest. I don't think anyone sitting up there voting should have been voting on that. And I filed a deal complaint about that, and quite frankly, Darlene, no offense to you, but that was your brother, right? I don't even know if you should have been, recording secretary for that. just because, I get emotional about my family, I care about my family, I would not work in government with my family or make decisions about my family. And I have worked for family and I have worked with family for a private company, and I really would not do it. And so I feel very strongly about that. And I also want to note that, Traci, you are highly educated, but you are highly educated in one field. And quite frankly, I don't think you get a lot of conflict of interest training from talking to school administrators and teachers. They got none, they told me. In some fields we do get it. I talked to, one of my friends, I just ran this by him, accountant with an MBA, and he said he never got this kind of conflict of interest training that would apply to government or journalism or things like that. And I just hope that you guys are doing research. And I get that, Traci said you were advised by, it sounded like, now Judge Nolan, who was once attorney. And I just want to note that just because an attorney says you can legally do something, that does not mean it is an ethical action, okay? I've had this conversation with people at the village a whole bunch of times. Just because an attorney says, yeah, under the law you can kind of get away, it does not mean that it holds, per this principles of government that Traci signed, we pledge to insist on the highest standards of ethical conduct by all who act on behalf of this township. That just does not mean it to me. I think when you have a room full of your family and friends, that's not a meeting that you should be presiding over about the property that's across the street from your house that is owned by your cousins. But I want to note that last night, a woman was ordered to buy thousands of dollars of trees in order to comply with the zoning ordinance and to be able to move forward with her business. Newcomb had to go through the process of going to the planning commission and go through, we hear, the vegetation arguments, get a little tedious, but we hear them every time, and I'm glad that, these people also spend thousands of dollars on their site plans to come and get reviewed before the planning commission. Unload went through the process. The trailer park had to come back meeting after meeting after meeting to the planning commission to get things approved. But folks who just come here for a variance, like Turbo Ted, like the Best Barn, don't go through any of that. They don't have to spend thousands of dollars on trees, and frankly, Turbo Ted should have had to, in my opinion, because this place does not look great. Also, this new business over here, the zoning administrator had to put in motion, rightfully so, that he is going to watch and make sure that those trees get installed, those thousands of dollars of trees. None of that was put into the Best Barn, right? And it looks to me, I filed another complaint about, based on a Facebook post that they have made, it looks like they are expanding beyond that 20 acres that was in their application that got approved at the last meeting. They said that they're going to do ceremony sites that are out and possibly hay rides to them. That sounds more like beyond that 20 acres to me. So, and Traci said, well, they agreed to, you verbally got an agreement from them. They would adhere to the site plan, again, going beyond it. That they have heard about the ADA and they, kind of pledged to go with it. Well, do they know the details of the ADA issues? Probably don't. Not many people do in life. So to me, it's seeming very unfair that some people can just come straight here and then not have oversight. And I do worry about the public. I worry about the public going to that Best Barn. So I hope that, we think about that, we do some research on conflicts of interest and really think about our ethical duty here. Thank you.
Anyone else in the public want to address the board?
Still Susan Huff, still 5047 Blood Road. I'd like to support what Karen said, and I'd like to emphasize the points that legal is not always ethical. Legal is not always transparent, and those of us from the community want transparent, we want ethical. I was also concerned that we have a township attorney, but apparently we don't go to the township attorney for advice on these types of matters, but we go to the former township attorney who is now a circuit court judge. And if someone were to be a stakeholder who wanted to appeal the outcome of a ZBA ruling, the only place they can appeal that to is the circuit court. So now it's looking even fuzzier, less transparent, less ethical, when rather than getting your advice from the township attorney, you get it from the former township attorney who is now our circuit court judge, where any potential appeal would go to the circuit court. So I'm just asking for transparency, procedures, ethics. I know you're crossing the T's and dotting the I's on the legal, I get that. And I do agree that for some reason, the ZBA findings in the past have been very scant. They've just granted the variances, as Karen said, without looking at the things that might need to be included in those site plans. Whether it's a tree line or a wall, things that we would expect if they went through the planning commission with a site plan. So I'm hoping there will be more site plan consideration if there are more use variances. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chouinard, if I could address some of that. So the Best Barn got a ZBA approval on definitions and uses of the ordinance prior to going with a site plan to present to the planning commission. So the Best Barn still has to get a site plan, and they can draw their site plan with the variances that were received for the site plan.
Oh.
Then they have to take that to the planning commission, and the planning commission has to look at it. And when the planning commission looks at it, they've got to look at it for our ordinance and for their variance that they got of the ordinance.
Just to help me clarify that, Joe, at the ZBA hearing for the Turbo Ted LLC, at that time Frank Pareto was the chairperson, and he said they no longer have to go to the planning commission for site plan approval. So that, I think, was an August 2019 decision.
Okay, so there's a little difference between Turbo Ted's and Best Barn. Turbo Ted's got his because of previous use variance on the same road. So when it sets precedent, that's what changes everything. Now, the legal end of it is that I'm by no means no attorney, and we have an attorney that we would get involved on the legal end of it. But what I do know is that if the ordinance says you have to have so many ceiling tiles in this room, and we can't get that many ceiling tiles in this room, you can get a variance to how many ceiling tiles you have in this room. And
So then-
you could get that before you got the building plans for this room. And that's just how that works. So 2 ways to do it: ask for permission up front, or turn your site plan in, have the planning commission say, no, 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 you need to go get a variance and come back to us. That's how the mop flops on that one.
Okay, so when will their site plan be presented?
That would be
And,
up to that applicant,
okay,
so it would be presented before they open.
Okay.
Because they can't open without coming back to the planning commission and getting approval for the site plan with the variances that were granted.
and where can we get a copy of what will be applied, what criteria will be applied to that site plan when it's reviewed?
Well, that's in our ordinance, and that would come
Okay.
to my desk, and I would have.
For that type of business, for that,
For that
Okay.
use.
okay,
So, there's a couple different variants: a use variance
Mhm.
of the use of a building or property,
Mhm.
or a dimensional variance.
I'm
of the
aware,
property.
we're aware.
Okay, so that's what the variance process is, and it's, these people on these boards, whether it's planning commission or ZBA, they're spending these nights here because they care about this community,
Just like us.
just like
Mhm.
you do.
Mhm.
And, they pay me to come here, so that's why I'm here, everybody, all right? But with that being said, everybody in any community tries their darndest, just like you guys do, to do what's right for the community. Now, the checks and balances, that's good, just like the legal scales, and just like the political scales. I mean, sometimes things move so far to the left, you wonder if they ever get moved back to the center. But the whole process is a democratic appeal process. Now, speaking of the appeal process, it's no different than appealing your taxes. we have a board that does that, and those people dedicate their times too. And, you know, with the point of that, even on the construction, if you're building a building and you disagree with a building inspector's decision, you can appeal that to our Construction Board of Appeals. And as a building inspector in 47 communities in Michigan, 4 counties, I look forward to somebody appealing my decision, because if they see it differently, the board, I'm good with that, because it's in writing. And, you know, I'm not offended by it at all, because obviously they might process something differently or better. And then one more thing on it, you know, when you have a passion for whatever trade, craft, or profession you're in, it's obvious, we all here do. You know, we need to utilize that. You know, maybe you guys could get on one of our boards, or
I've tried,
you know,
but we
run
won't
for
go.
office. You know, dedicate the time and talent to the public, like, you know, individuals like they do and I do. You know.
Thank you, Joe, for the information. It felt a little lectury, but I'm going to move past that.
Okay.
I do not have the minutes of the Turbo Ted decision here, but I do not believe they were granted the variance because of past precedent. And I do not believe past precedent is a legal grounds for granting a variance. I think if you look at the reasons they were granted, it is not that. So that's something I can't tell you for sure because I don't have it here.
Neither do I.
Yeah, so, you know, something we can look back at. And I think that's great to know that the Best Barn site plan is going to be going before the Planning Commission. I'm glad to hear that. I don't know if they knew that or not. It would be interesting.
No,
to find
I
out.
feel like that should have also been specified.
Yeah, but regardless, thank
And
you.
then, so one last thing on precedent, a decision that's made here tonight, or even at any appeal anywhere, you can appeal it again
Yes,
to the
Joe,
circuit court.
you are right.
You
That was my entire point. So
Okay.
I'm sure you understand that you shouldn't be seeking your advice from an attorney who no longer serves the township and is now the circuit court judge where an appeal would be heard. So thank you for hearing that. I appreciate it,
And
Joe.
that should come up to the township board, because the township board are the ones that make those decisions. These folks here don't make that decision.
Oh, Joe, I'm sorry, you
And
may
neither
not
do
have
I.
been privy to the discussion, but the discussion was that 2 members, 1 member of the zoning board of appeals and the township supervisor sought counsel from this person, who was the former attorney and is the circuit court judge. They sought counsel from him regarding ethical conflicts of interest sitting on the board.
Okay.
I just wanted to respond really quick. I kind of feel like that was quite condescending. And I realize I have not been to nearly as many board meetings as you have been. But there, I can tell you just between here and Dryden, there's a big difference between how much democracy I can perceive going on there and here. And so you can't just say, you know, it's equal and you know, you want to be put on a board, you know, ask. And they don't even announce when they're looking for people. They just announce it. They don't to give qualifications and that type of thing. So going to all of the meetings here, I get a very different idea about how that works than what you've presented. So thank you.
And I have told George Nash that I would be interested in serving on the planning commission. I have volunteered to help Sue Clark get the minutes and the agendas scanned in so that they can be in documents on demand. I have applied to be an election official, and nothing has occurred. So it isn't for lack of trying, Joe.
Okay, so the last thing on public forum, I'm gonna have the floor. I apologize if I came across condescending. However, I have a passion for what I do too, no different than you guys do. And I can see what I can do to get you into the unit of government here.
Thank you.
Can't promise you a darn thing, but I can see what I can do.
I don't wish to
And I
join, she
appreciate-
may, but yeah.
And I appreciate the banter back and forth.
And I
because-
appreciate the opportunity to talk to you, Joe.
Right, because at times, you know, I can honestly tell you, I don't know what I don't know.
Right, none of us do.
And none of us do. So that's why these forums, in my opinion, and I teach code classes for the state of Michigan, and I've had 400 building officials in a room. These forums are the best way to iron out all of our differences, to have that free speech. country we live in.
I agree,
So-
thank you.
Chairman, I'm done.
Okay, then I will close the public hearing. And now we go to unfinished business, and that's the decision on tonight's public hearing. We'll talk about
Well,
what your thoughts are on the
my thoughts now that I know a lot more about these people and the situation, I would go ahead and call vote. Yes or no?
Tracy, any?
I don't have any further questions, I think I'm all set. That's work.
Well, then, I guess we need a motion to approve or deny the two requests.
All right, then, I'll make a motion to approve the first request, from Article 13, Section 1300 R1 District rear setback, is typically 30 feet. The applicant is requesting a 28-foot rear yard setback.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We want to make a motion on the second.
I'll make a motion to approve the second request, which is from Article 15, General Provisions, Section 1500, accessory buildings, B6 overhead doors on a residential accessory building erected in the front yard shall not face the street. The applicant is requesting the overhead doors to face the street.
Roll call.
Did you second it? Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Then under new business, the only thing we have is matters for discussion from the zoning board of appeal members. And
Nothing?
I don't know anything today.
the other thing I would mention is I have, since the last meeting I was at, I've been to a ZBA meeting in Hadley Township and also one in Attica, just to see how things are conducted. Interesting, Attica has a 5-member ZBA, and it actually was an appeal. It was an appeal of the planning commission and the township board. And I was talking to the chairman, he's been chairman for 20 years. It's the first time they've ever actually had an appeal. I mean, most of them are variances, either use variance or most of them being non-use variances. The one thing they did that I wouldn't think is helpful is during the public hearing, they had the public speak first. And that's what they've done. Then they had the applicant speak, which, I mean, granted, people could see their paperwork, but I just find it better to have the applicant, the one who's going forward, to speak first, so everybody can hear of what they said. Also, both of them only had public hearings. Neither one had a meeting. And of course, we only have ZBA meetings when we have a public hearing. But we do them both in one night. It's interesting, next week, Attica has a ZBA meeting, public hearing at 6 o'clock, and a planning commission meeting at 7 o'clock.
Right.
So they do them the same night. So I just thought it was interesting. You know, when there's something that I know about, can go and see how things are done. So with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make it.
I'll second.
All in favor? Meeting is closed. Thank you all.
Thank you.